Curmudgeon, where bastard children are traditionally assigned the surname Biden at birth. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Welcome to the live stream. Happy Sunday. Hope you're having an agreeable weekend. I am your eponymous host and humble servant. And if you're wondering what it is you're going to be looking at on your screen tonight, well, today we are going to hop into the time-traveling DeLoreans of our mind, and we're going to take a trip back to 2005, Friday, 9 September 2005, specifically, for an event that was known at the time as Shelter from the Storm, a concert for the Gulf Coast, but which everybody remembers today in retrospect as that time Kanye West blurted out, "George Bush doesn't care about black people," and poor Mike Myers had to stand there looking like he wanted the earth to open up and swallow him whole. So this was sort of an historically significant event in the life of the nation for a couple of different reasons. First, because it was here that Kanye West first started establishing himself as guy who blurts out random crazy shit just to see what happens. Indeed, many Americans, myself included, had never even heard of Kanye West up until the day of this telethon. And second, because this telethon was probably the last telethon of its kind in the traditional sense of the term telethon. It was 2005. Everybody already had the internet by that point. Everybody had a cell phone by that point, but there were no social media. There was no Twitter, no Facebook, no Insta, Flippy, Snappy, whatever the hell it is the youngsters use these days. This thing wasn't being streamed online. If you wanted to watch it, you had to watch it on television. And if you wanted to send money, you couldn't text it, you couldn't Venmo it, you couldn't PayPal it, you couldn't Bitcoin it. Nah. You had to give money the old-fashioned way by calling up an 800 number and reading out your credit card number to the nice lady on the other end of the telephone line. And if you wanted to share your reactions to that crazy thing that Kanye just said, you know where you had to do it? You had to do it on a freaking news group. Because most websites back then didn't even have comment sections. And the news groups, they were plain text only. You wanted to do a little smiley face at the end of your message. You didn't get to just click the little emoji button. You had to actually type the colon and the parenthesis and then decide if you wanted to put the little dash in there for the nose, because sometimes the occasion calls for a smiley with a nose and sometimes it doesn't. And if you wanted to add a picture to your news group post or a fancy customized signature, well, that's just too damn bad. So that's the world we're celebrating today, as we close out a week in which Kanye West has once again, in yeoman's fashion, proved that he is still the guy who blurts out random crazy shit just to see what happens. And for detailed analysis, we are joined by Mr. Caucasian Sasquatch. Mr. Sasquatch, how are you this evening, sir?
I am absolutely fantastic. I'm happy to be here, and can't wait to see exactly what you got going on up here.
Interesting week for Kanye West, wouldn't you say?
Well, I mean, it's Yeezy. That's kind of the way he rolls. He is bombastic.
Yeezy gonna yeeze, you might say.
Yeah, right. Yeezy got to yeeze. What you gonna do? You ever take my explanation of how Yeezy's president?
The last. No, go right ahead though.
President. Oh, you want to hear it?
Yes, sir.
All right. So there was this discussion this past election about the rare, unbelievable, just inconsiderable possibility of a purchased election, which made me think, if that one was purchased, then maybe the one before was purchased too, which devoids both of those elections, leaving the only person that had gotten votes in those two elections being Kanye.
Drum roll, please.
I guarantee you every vote that man counted was a legitimate vote. I promise you.
Oh yeah, I guarantee you're probably right about that.
So both the other all four of the other candidates are gotten rid of because of impropriety or whatever. That leaves Yeezy as the last duly elected president of the United States.
So the first thing he did this week, which made the internet explode, was he wore a shirt at some fashion show in Rome that said "White Lives Matter." And we are told that this is just the most outrageously offensive thing that you can possibly do. It even borders on the level of violence. And in a world with actual problems, as I mentioned in one of this week's videos, it is always fascinating to see people acting like the worst thing in the world is not the threat of nuclear war, but a guy wearing a shirt that says "White Lives Matter."
Right.
And it was kind of a funny shirt anyway, just because it had a picture of the Pope on the front, and he's wearing his his Pope outfit, his white cassock, and so it's a fun play on words, in addition to being a bit of snarky political commentary, and all the right people got upset about it, and that's when you were over the target. I think when all the worst people in the world get upset over something you've done, then you just sank that putt, my friend.
I think he did good. If controversy is the measure of an act, then that was a good one. But here's the thing: I don't understand why there's controversy at all. I don't really get it. Some guy
Nor do I.
And walked outside with his wife, and they matched. And the world.
He was with Candace Owens, and they really, the woke left really hates Candace Owens a lot. So I'm sure that amplified the intensity of the reaction.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's controlled opposition, but at the same time, at least she's not terrible to look at. She's not completely spouting absolute BS, right? She does have
a well-spoken young lady. I mean, she can
extremely well-spoken young lady.
She can lay it out there, man.
And she's vicious. Once she gets a hold of something verbally, she will take it apart piece by piece quickly.
Yep, and she brings the receipts too.
Right? Don't misunderstand me. I like the woman. I do. Yep. You have to respect her. If you don't, she will burn you.
Yeah, I like her a lot too, but at the same time, there's there's an intensity there that I don't know if I would want to be married to a woman capable of that intensity level, frankly.
Yeah, Kanye chasing attention, but I mean, isn't that his job? Isn't that my job? Isn't that Cap's job? Aren't we all chasing attention? I mean, you're trying to get attention to a particular breadth of the police force. You don't hate all cops. It's obvious you don't hate all cops. You just know good and damn well that the good cops are just as bad as the bad cops, because the good cops know what the bad cops are doing and let them do it. That's just as culpable as the bad cops, in my opinion.
And I'm with you there.
All right, so what we got going on over here? You got the Gulf Coast. What was it called? Shelter from the Storm?
Yeah, Shelter from the Storm for concert for I actually had the list of people who played this thing laying around here somewhere, but I lost track of it. Let me pull it up here, and I'll give you the. It's not going to be nearly as good as the cast of luminaries we had for Battle of the Network Stars last time, but it'll be a pale imitation at best.
Well, what can you do?
What can you do?
Off YouTube, didn't they? They just put it down the memory hole. How many times did you upload it?
Oh yeah, they actually did the day. I'm not sure how that actually all worked out, because there was the day they banhammered me, and I think the banhammer happened when that video wasn't quite uploaded all the way. So then, but somehow that video got pulled down, in addition to the year and a half old video that was supposedly the impetus for the strike they dropped on me. But yeah, I don't know how that all happened, but it's probably between the two channels. I've probably uploaded it 4 times now, and it gets more views each time. So hell, might as well keep going, right?
It's a good one. There's a few really good lines in there. We're not safe on YouTube together.
Oh, certainly not, and I wouldn't want it any other way. I would not want to do this with a safe person.
I can approve of that. Sasquatch approves.
Sasquatch approves, and that's all that matters. Oh, it's Morgan Freeman, a young-looking Morgan Freeman. Is it really possible that 2005 was 17 years ago?
I just realized my truck's 20 years old. Right?
Yeah, my car's 20 years old too.
The rider out of that thing at Infinitum.
Bought it brand new for cash, still driving it. 20 years.
That's right, cash.
Cash.
I got its second owner. I pulled a small Furby out of the interior air filter. I'm not joking.
Oh, nice.
2 dogs in that truck. I had a wad of fur this big around. It's amazing. Dude, I was riding around everywhere I went, smelled like a wet dog all the time. And so I took it in, talked to the guy, and he's like, I bet you got some fur in your cabin air filter. So I changed the cabin air filter. And I was like, what about that other filter? He's like, there's not another filter. I said, there's another filter right there. He's like, there's not another filter. We walk outside, I pop the thing out, pull it out. And he goes, that's not a filter. And gets a screwdriver and pulls it out. It was a wad of dog hair, this big around, that had just wadded in so flat that you could change the filter and you'd never know it was there.
Might as well be a Furby.
A Furby. I found a whole Furby in that thing from some small dog. It's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, well, there's animals, well, humans too. We all shed tremendous amounts of hair all day long, and you don't really notice it until you see it all collected in one place at one time.
Like a drain. I have 2 traps on my drains to keep it from clogging up, but the hair ever getting in there. I got one of the little net ones and one of the metal, like stainless steel mesh ones.
Yep, same here. Okay, I've got the artist list for this shindig we're watching. You ready?
Yeah, hit me with it.
Randy Newman, U2, Mary J. Blige, Alicia Keys, Neil Young, Boo, Foo Fighters, Mariah Carey, Paul Simon, Dixie Chicks. I don't know if this was before or after they went communist. Kelly Clarkson, Sheryl Crow, Rod Stewart, the infamous Kanye West, Garth Brooks, Trisha Yearwood, Paul Schaefer, Dr. John. And those are all the musical appearances. We have special spoken appearances by Bruce Willis, Julia Roberts, Don Cheadle, Jennifer Aniston, Jack Black, Cameron Diaz, Ellen DeGeneres, Morgan Freeman, Jack Nicholson, Chris Rock, Ray Romano, and Celia freaking Ward.
Wow.
And wow, do you want to hear the list of celebrities they had answering the telephones? Back when telethons were telethons?
Telethons with telephones. Can you imagine it?
Ben Affleck, Jason Alexander, Jennifer Aniston, Sean Astin, Angela Bassett, Jack Black, Adrian Brody, Don Cheadle, Michael Chiklis, Ellen DeGeneres, Benicio del Toro, Danny DeVito, Cameron Diaz, Jennifer Garter, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Randy Jackson, Allison Janney, Christine Lottie, Reba McEntire, Mandy Moore, Jack Nicholson, Jeremy Piven, Emily Proctor, Dennis Quaid, Julia Roberts, The Rock, Ray Romano, Doug Savant, Jimmy Smith, Mary Steenburgen, some person whose name I can't say, Celia Ward, Bruce Willis, Alfred Woodard, and James Woods.
That's James Woods. You could call and donate money and talk to James Woods.
I don't think they would be inviting him to this thing today.
Oh no, sir. You'd be better.
He's kind of a naughty boy in Hollywood. He likes to vote for those Republican types.
Shh. Don't mention the unmentionables.
Can't talk about that.
Not at all. We'll talk later. Anyway, that's an amazing list, dude. Could you imagine trying to put something like this together today?
Oh, I know. Everybody who was anybody was involved with this thing in one way or another.
Hey, Swiss Miss, welcome to the show. I have no idea what he's going to be showing me. Apparently, it's the shelter from the storm.
Oh, Swiss Miz is here. Hello, Miz. Good to see you.
It's 2005.
I'm doing agreeably well. I hope you are the same.
I'm fantastic. I'm 2 Red Bulls in. We're going to do it. To it. No problem.
You know, I'm not sure exactly when in this program it is that the famous Kanye West Mike Myers moment happens. I hope we don't miss it. We might talk right through the damn thing, mightn't we? It seems like something that would happen.
Oh Lord.
There's a good charity commercial. We got to have crying people on our. No, that's no happy people. We need crying people. People don't send money to happy people. They send money to people who are crying and miserable and
In
see up
2005,
to their chest in floodwaters. That's
that's
what
wild.
this is all about.
You know, I went to New Orleans about 2 months before Katrina. I had, of course, had hindsight being 2020. I went about 2 months before Katrina and went back through New Orleans 3 years later. And 3 years later, that place still looked like a freaking. It was a disaster area still.
Yeah,
Um,
that's I've heard that from others too.
Recently, it's changed, but up until about 2010, you could purchase fully equipped house lots over there for pennies on the dollar because the wells have to be retreated and the septic tanks all have to be pumped out and the foundations all shot to crap. The whole place is just, in most cases, they either burned it down or just pushed them over. And so
Ooh,
there's,
Buffy the Vampire Slayer. How you doing, sweetheart?
that's not Buffy.
It's not. Wasn't Sarah Michelle Gellar on the list?
Yeah, but that's Cameron Diaz, brother. That's not. Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Yes,
you're
sir.
right. That is Cameron Diaz.
I mean, that's the difference between a 9 and a 10, but I know the difference.
Well, yeah, she was so small on my screen I couldn't tell.
But it was the stance. When you said that was Buffy, I looked up at her. I went, "No, it's not. She doesn't stand right."
Well, and
That's
they started from kind of a long shot, so it confused me. Right, it's only been 17 years. I haven't had time to absorb all this stuff.
Besides, all the white people look alike.
All white people look alike. It is not my fault.
I mean, how could you tell the difference?
Everybody's got their little Caucasian face and their little Caucasian hair and their little Caucasian nose.
That's how you summon me if I'm not around.
All right, we got to talk shit about Neil Young now. Neil Young can't be on my screen unless we were talking shit about him.
But I kind of like his song. I'm not allowed to say that. Hold up. He got funny looking hair.
No, you're allowed to say it. He's got some good songs. He's just such a douche. He finally gets around to taking American citizenship like 5 minutes ago after he's been living in this country for 50 years, talking shit constantly the entire time.
Well, what can you expect from communists?
Not too much, I suppose.
Or you could. Well, there's two types of communists. There are honest communists and subversive communists. The honest communists are really sweet people. They have sort of, and don't misunderstand what I'm saying. It's not Amish. I'm saying they have a kind of odd sort of Amish vibe where they do whatever the hell they want. You do whatever the hell you want. Don't bother them with it. They won't bother you with it. And nobody has to have any kind of anything involving a government or nothing.
And they're not trying to fool anybody.
No, not at all. And that's what makes it worthwhile to know these people.
Yep.
Meanwhile, you have subversive communists who try to take on conservative personalities on YouTube and attempt to subvert the narrative of the right wing, whereas most Americans don't even know the narrative of the right wing. What is that? Is there one?
Well, most Americans couldn't explain communism to you if you held a Luger to their heads, probably.
That's
if
true.
we're being honest.
That's true. It was that whole ants thing that finally tipped the scale for me. When I was trying to boggle it out in my head. I can't remember if it was Dostoevsky or Tolstoy or who it was, but they went at length about ants, and then explained how ants were analogous to communism. And I went, well, it's not quite right, but it's really freaking close. It's really good.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah, when the leaders are viewing the population as an ant farm to be played with, and you don't need communism for that. There's social engineering movements develop in all kinds of systems and philosophies, and pardon me, even people who might think they are devoted to liberal democracy and republicanism and all of that good stuff might engage in it and not even realize they are engaging in it, which I think we've seen a lot of the past couple of years, specifically on the public health front.
Okay, but we're not a democracy.
We are a federative republic made up of 50 sovereign democracies. Is that better?
Even then, we're still a representative republic or representative republic, right?
Right. But individually, each of the states is a sovereign democracy, because anytime you've got things being decided by popular election, then which we don't have at the federal level. So that's why at that level we are not a democracy, but at the state level we are.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
We are our republic is a collection of democracies, you might say.
Got me there. All right. All right. You win. I lose. Your channel. Is that Chris Rock? That is Chris Rock. That's like
that is Chris Rock. A very young. And where's Will Smith? Somebody clear the stage.
Foresight.
keep my wife's name out of your mouth.
I
kind of wanted more Chris Rock than that. I think I had a few more Will Smith jokes.
I think you have to respect both people on both sides in that situation, because Will Smith delivered exactly the slap he was looking to deliver, and Chris Rock took it like a freaking champ and continued with the show. You either it was planned or he is an excellent showman. Either way, golf clap for you.
And thank you for stating a simple truth that is not stated nearly often enough. Two things can both be true at once. You don't have to be on one guy's side or the other guy's side. They can both be right and they can both be wrong simultaneously, because life is a very nuanced thing sometimes.
All right, now let's be honest. Chances are they're both wrong in almost every occasion.
Oh yes. Oh God, yes. Yep.
I'm usually wrong. Ask my wife. But hold on, I got this one.
Oh, look, redcross.org. They were all over the brand new technology in 2005, weren't they?
Way ahead of the curve. That one's still up.
Way ahead of the curve. But you go right immediately back to the 800 number.
You should.
We just flash the website for 5 seconds for those super tech savvy people who might be watching.
Super duper.
Hey, that guy's dead now.
Now, dude, this is a hall of skeletons, if you want to look at it that way. It's excellent for a Halloween month.
Yeah, he's probably not the first dead person we're going to see, is he?
No, it's like Ghost in the Machine, man. It's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
When you're watching sitcoms and you hear those canned laughs in the background.
Mm-hmm.
That was recorded in 1940 something by a group of sound technicians at Universal Studios in the early days of the company that became Universal Studios.
Are you familiar with
people are all dead?
Are you familiar with the story of the laugh track on MASH?
There's actually a couple of laugh track stories.
Yeah, that was a whole entire saga, because the showrunners, they didn't want to have a laugh track, and the network said, God damn it, this is a comedy show and comedy shows have laugh tracks. And it was just drama back and forth for the whole 11 years that the show was on the air. Occasionally they would talk the network into letting them have an episode without a laugh track, like some of the really serious non-comedy episodes. And then it persists all the way into the present day, because and finally when they released the show on DVD, they insisted, the guys who had made the show, the creative guys behind the show, insisted that the DVDs have an option to where you can turn off the goddamn laugh track. And they got their way in the end with that.
Fantastic. That's cool.
Yep.
Because laugh track, when it came to MASH, yes, MASH was a comedy, but it was also a poignant stab at the war machine of America. It was a vicious gig straight to the heart of the situation that was not just pertinent in Korea, which is why the freaking show ran 10 years longer than the war went.
Yep.
But
And there were entire episodes of that show where it was screamingly inappropriate to have a laugh track at all.
Yes, there were entire episodes that, while yet again, technically speaking, it was a comedy, that shit ain't funny.
Yeah, and sticking a sitcom laugh track in there just detracts from everything they're trying to do when they made the episode. So I'm glad they managed to win that battle a few times, because some of those episodes, if you tried to stick a laugh track in there, it would be completely absurd.
Yeah. There's corporate machines are heartless entities that devour everything in their path for profits. It
And
is
the extent to which we're doing this because this is the way we do things, because that's the way it's done, that you get so much of that kind of thinking in those, in any kind of institutional setting, but even a creative artistic institutional setting will fall victim to thinking like that every single time.
One of my issues I have with authoritarian style arbitration law, right? Like the way they got Roe versus Wade put in and the way it was removed, is both of these situations were accomplished by bypassing the actual legislation.
Yep.
They utilized the Supreme Courts to write a ad hoc law into the laws of the land by simply defining a word differently. The word rights, there ain't a whole bunch of rights. There's not all right. If you're standing on the side of a stream, you fall out of an airplane and you land in the wilderness naked, what you can do are your rights. You can scream, you can yell, you may remain silent, you may build a weapon, you may defend yourself, you may attempt to feed yourself, clothe yourself, house yourself, but they're not guaranteed. If you die of exposure or a bear eats you before you get the spear, you kind of sacrifice the rest of the rights that people want to write in as being a legitimate right. Like, there's no right to communication. You meet someone on that stream bed that also fell out of an airplane naked and y'all speak different languages, that's what you're dealing with.
Sounds like a hell of a screenplay.
It could be interesting, but no one would want to touch it. It gets
Could be almost as good as Enemy Mine.
Dude, those are tall words.
Those are tall words. Yeah, you're right.
Love Lou Gossett Jr. Was it Dennis Quaid?
I apologize. I'm not keeping up with the comments. I'll do better.
Right. There's a whole reason there's a legislative branch. Also another thing that falls into that exact same category is the way the ATF is trying to swing its weight around in the world, trying to make itself relevant by insisting that things that are clearly not firearms are firearms, that they can pass, redefinitions of words. Yep. So that they have more power and more breadth in their authority.
And there shouldn't be any damn ATF in the first place. We did just fine for 200 years without one.
Right. Now, I'm not for the Home Depot nuke, but if Elon Musk wanted to have a nuke built to put on his freaking mantelpiece, this is right? He can defend himself against Russia and anyone else he wants to defend himself against. Aggressively, as it may.
Well, there's a young-looking Mariah Carey.
I have so many horrible things to say about that woman, and none of them are YouTube appropriate. Like, I've heard.
Oh, say them anyway. It's only YouTube.
I can't do it, dude. I won't do that to you. Some of this stuff, like, no. I'm sorry. I even brought it up. I can't do that to you.
I'm still waiting with bated breath for the Kanye thing.
Oh, I told you. Okay. So, all right, are we talking about the how he's the last duly elected president?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, if this past election was suspect, it voids both of the major contenders, And if the one before was also, well, the last one was suspect, then the one before was definitely suspect, because that's the weirdest one I've seen in the past 20 years, other than the last one, which was way weird. But that would imply that Kanye West was the only person to get legitimate votes during either of those two elections, which would leave him being the ad hoc, legitimately elected president, and has not been deposed yet because everything else would be suspect, right?
Yes. And
That's
the, and
absurd.
the
It's funny.
and January 6th was actually an attempt to install Kanye West as president. And the mainstream media has just missed it entirely.
I might have showed up for that one.
Right?
That would be like, I don't know what went down between Biden and Trump and Hillary. I have no clue about Obama or none of that, but I'm pretty sure Kanye West got exactly the number of votes they counted for him.
Yeah, I'm guessing nobody stuffed the ballot box for Kanye.
Oh, I'm sure they did, but I don't think it was with any really hard. I mean, I'm sure they like pushed everything they could push, but it was like a wild card. I would have loved if he'd won. Could you imagine a Kanye West presidency? I want to do one of those dream sequences so that I could like stare off into space and then we would see Kanye as president.
You know, I love it when Kanye occasionally, says something that conservatives like, and then a bunch of conservatives start acting like Kanye is one of us now. Like, hooray, Kanye! Like, lead our parade, Kanye. And then Kanye turns around and says some incredibly dumb thing that nobody could ever possibly get behind. And then, oh, never mind. Sorry.
Oh, well.
Conservatives are trying, it seems like they are trying so hard always to find some person on the left, or some person they perceive to be on the left, to flip and turn into one of their own, like a pro wrestling heel turn or something.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to get Kanye, he's going to flip, and then he's going to be one of us.
And then he'll bring his millions of followers, except he won't.
Yes.
Because I'm here to tell you,
because everybody who likes your music is willing to do every single thing you say, including whom you vote for.
Hard pass on that one, big dog.
Right?
Just.
But that is a perception that seems to be regrettably widespread these days. Not that the phenomenon actually exists, but that people seem to believe the phenomenon exists, and they act accordingly.
I got a buddy of mine. He's an elder gentleman, and he came by about 6 months ago, 7 months or so. First time I've seen him in 5 years. But he spends 2 hours on my couch screaming about how they need to arrest Trump immediately and they need to raid Mar-a-Lago. That's, like I said, 6 months ago. I know most of that stuff's been attempted since then, but
yeah.
For 2 hours, I respect the man deeply. For 2 hours, he sat there and raved about Trump. And I didn't say a word. I didn't say nothing. And then I looked at him and I said, brother, I got to ask you a question. He said, what's that, Sasquatch? I said, listen, why do I care? And why do you care? He's like, because, he's been doing this and been doing that. I said, did you see him do those things? No, it's in the paper. You can't write it if it ain't true in the paper. I think we've had.
Tell me he didn't actually say that.
He said it out loud, dude. I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. He said they can't print it if it ain't true in the paper.
Oh, dear me.
And I said, I think our conversation has come to an end, bud.
Because what are you supposed to do with that? You can't do anything with that.
You can't communicate with that. There's no communication, much less discussion. You can't discuss if you can't communicate. That really seems to be where the left is really getting over on us. They're changing.
Yeah, and that goes for the entire 2 hours that he was on your couch. You could have said something at any point, and it wouldn't have made any difference. Everything that came after would have been what came after.
All it did was piss him off. He stood up, stared at me, and said, "I guess we can't talk anymore." And I was like, "I don't want to talk about Trump. I don't care. That is something that took place elsewhere. It's not here. I'm in my living room. I don't want to talk about it, dude. You've been here for 2 hours, and we've talked about absolutely nothing but what you want to talk about. Can we talk about movies?"
Yeah, all I want to talk about is this politician I can't stand.
Can't stand it. Dude, I had never witnessed the actual effect of Trump derangement syndrome so perfectly exhibited.
Yeah, but there it is. There it is, exemplified in living color right in your living room.
And I had another experience that was a pretty good example of this. I am in a open carry state, and or was at the time, and I open carry when I carry, right? So I walked in to pay my insurance, and the lady behind the counter completely melted down because I had a pistol. She ran into the other office and called the cops and sat in there talking to the cops while I was paying for my insurance. Now, the receptionist, the nice lady behind the counter, she asked what it was, and I told her, and she said, I have this, and she pulled hers out in her little holster and all proper technique. It was like, it's a Glock such and such and blah, blah, blah. And I'm
Oh,
like,
that's
"Oh,
cute.
cool." And she put it back in, and she said, I don't tell them I have it. I said, that's probably the most intelligent thing you've done,
Probably so.
because that lady would lose her giblets if she knew you had a pistol. And then the other lady comes back into the room and starts screaming at me being a Trump voter. This was almost a year and a half ago. She lost her crap simply because I had a pistol. There was all kinds of other things that were obviously true about me.
And her mind goes straight to Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's where it ended. I don't know where it went
Yeah, and then
straight.
that's just fascinating to me.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Ever seen a criminal open carry?
Nope.
You know why criminals don't open carry?
Because they're criminals.
Hey,
Yeah, there are certain simple truths that gun grabbers just will never be able to grasp because they're too inconvenient.
hello, Bill. Welcome to the show, girl. Yes, no, I feel much safer around open carrying people than I do concealed carrying people, but I feel very
Yep.
unsafe around concealed carrying people who let people know they're concealed carrying. That bothers me. I don't know why exactly. I think it's because if you're concealed carrying, you shouldn't be notifying people that you have
Yeah,
that you
because
are
the whole
concealed.
point of concealed carry is that you're keeping it on the down low. So why go around talking about it unless you're just defeating the entire purpose of the exercise?
Right. Now, I'm not saying that you have to hide your weapon. I'm simply saying that it's an odd thing to do in my mind. Uh,
Yeah.
when I don't often conceal carry because I don't really see the point, given that knowing that I have a gun is more of a preventative to crime than not knowing. I really
Yes.
don't want to shoot anyone. I don't want that to ever be an issue, but I would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So it means I have it.
Yep. Would rather never need it and have it than. You're absolutely right. I will sign that memo 100 times out of 100. Oh, do we got the Dixie Chicks now?
Man, that girl's mouth is ginormous.
It sure is.
She's about a dart and a half date.
Now, I want to say this was after that wasn't it over in the UK where they infamously said on stage that they're ashamed to be from Texas or something like that. I want to say that happened before this.
Yeah, they did a weird political U-turn about the time they signed with a major record deal.
Yeah, which is a pretty fascinating way of timing such things, isn't it?
It's amazing how changes of heart come along with zeros.
Right. All right, I'm looking it up right now. I'm going to get the date for you.
It's October 2nd, 2005. If that's right, I'm not. I don't even. I
10 March 2003, the Dixie Chicks performed at Shepherd's Bush Empire Theatre in London, England. Natalie Maines, told the audience the band did not support the imminent Allied invasion of Iraq and were ashamed that President George W. Bush was from Texas. Maine's remark triggered a backlash in the United States. The Dixie Chicks were blacklisted by thousands of country radio stations, and the band members received death threats. Maine's issued an apology saying her remark had been disrespectful. In 2006, she rescinded the apology, saying she felt Bush deserved no respect. The backlash also damaged sales of their next album and tour. So there you have it.
Oh, it
So
did.
that was
It
so.
killed their band. They got to keep the contract, but they didn't keep the fans.
Yeah, so this show was a couple of years after that.
There's another critical cultural difference between the left and the right that I don't understand the corporatization of the left, because most, how to say this, all right, so you're going to make all of your media match a given narrative that you're wanting to support or promote, right?
Right.
But that narrative requires that you use socially and culturally bankrupt individuals to write that narrative, basically shills, and you got to pay them to do it. And the more you pay them does not increase the quality of the work. It just means you get the work done.
Yeah, it sure doesn't increase it.
But the clout of saying that you've got a multi-million-dollar writer writing your content is a real thing. And so corporations will pay people more to be able to say that they have paid people more to do things so that it sounds like it has legitimacy.
Right, and it's the same
Culturally,
reason that the industry invents words to give to itself.
right. But when you're culturally bankrupt in the first place and you have no ethics to speak of, you cannot write a poignant and moving story, because you're only interested in making the dollar and not interested in telling the tale. This
Yeah,
means
and you render yourself incapable of doing anything but hollow, superficial bullcrap.
exactly. You're going to end up remaking Wizard of Oz instead of writing a brilliant new epitaph. You know,
Yep.
you're going
Yep,
to
you're gonna take some intellectual property from the past and dress it up in a new woke outfit, and then try to call it your own, and then say how awesome you are for having done it.
right, and then you're going to pay yourself very well to do it while patting yourself on the back for towing the narrative, towing the line so perfect,
Yep.
right? And then get really upset when no one watches. And these people don't realize that we're watching the House of the Dragon, and we're watching the Lord of the Rings of Power, and we're watching one because, well, you know, there's nothing else good on, but we're watching the other because it is a slow motion train wreck of $23 billion.
Yep. And that's I guarantee you the majority of people who are still watching Rings of Power right now, it's because they are either making YouTube videos trashing it, or they want to watch YouTube videos trashing it. Sometimes that is the only traction that shitty woke shows get, is
I mean,
YouTube hate videos.
I could name a dozen issues I have with the story that have nothing to do with the people, the races, the plot, none of that. It has to do with
Yep.
the actual names of locations and the way locations are attained in the series, because they have put places in the wrong places and changed the freaking map. Why? No fucking clue. There's no reason to do it.
Narrative laziness.
Beyond narrative yes, narrative laziness, in that they went through and basically, probably, if I had to guess, used
Oh,
Wikipedia.
I need these characters to be in this place at the same time, so I'm just gonna get them there, and I've got one page to do it.
It's worse than that. One of the bulwarks of Sauron was an age out of place. He wasn't there before he went to Agamar. He was there after, because he hid there during the fall. So they go there to find him during a previous fall where he also hid there, exactly the way he does in the following age. Like, okay, I'm
Ooh.
sorry, it's a lore breaking thing, but that's not what breaks my suspension of disbelief. What breaks my suspension of disbelief is watching Galadriel beat the flying hell out of absolutely everyone who comes across her path. This is the night, the light in the darkness. This is the far north star, the princess of peace. She is the one who orbits all decisions in Lothlorien.
Do you mean to tell me that when you watched the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, you did not get the impression that Galadriel was a Mary Sue girl boss who can easily dispatch half a dozen full-grown male assassins and not leave a hair out of place?
Oh, I'm certain she could without even turning a hair. Absolutely, she could, but I don't think she'd hit a single one of them physically.
And I continue to find it remarkable that in the woke Hollywood era, the way that we celebrate femininity is through masculine traits. We
Is by
celebrate,
whooping the fool out of men,
yes,
white men.
we celebrate
Always.
femininity by having a woman punch a guy in the face lots of times.
Well, no, usually it's kicking them in the balls. Like they
Yes.
physically actually show that because they think it's funny. It's funny. You got to admit it's funny. I mean,
And how
seeing
many
the
woke properties have we seen in the last couple or few years where they are right up front with it, like within the first 2 or 3 minutes of the movie or the pilot episode, as the case may be, you've got the 87-pound female protagonist, you know, easily dispatching some
a squad of silk.
300-pound male assailant. And Star Trek, recent Star Trek specifically comes to mind when I think of that.
Who's the chick named Rose that plays the bald-headed badass in all of the Netflix movies and adaptations? Is it?
I'm drawing
It's
a
not
blank.
Allen, is it? It's Rose something, but she's and it's not Tico. It's not the one from. It's not her. It's not the most hated Rose ever.
Oh,
But
poor
she's
Kelly Marie Tran, dressed her up in that potato sack.
yeah, dude. They didn't do that girl no favors whatsoever.
Oh
Although,
no, they sure didn't.
as much as I hate that type of person, I really enjoyed that character because the whole thing made me laugh, and I don't think it was supposed to.
Oh, it definitely was not supposed to.
I have a very, very deep cut take for you, a surprising take. I have a
Oh, go
theory.
ahead.
I have a belief. Are you familiar with the Black Panther comics?
Yeah, more or less.
You read many of them. How many, give or take? I mean, series of them or one?
He wasn't one of my top tier guys, but I
Okay,
mean,
so I'm kind of familiar with the fact that
I'm familiar with the surface level lore. Let's put it that way.
you might all right. You might all right. So Black Panther was an anti-comic, and Black Panther was not exactly a hero. He was more of a Batman type than he was a Iron Man type.
Yeah, he was morally ambiguous.
Very morally ambiguous. And he also, if you go and look at the way his comics go together, and this goes across several iterations of the Black Panther, he inverts the tropes of comics. All of his comics have ambiguously bad guys, with him being an ambiguously good guy, and them basically going at loggerheads for 36 pages and 129 panels or whatever. But if you look at it, if you take it and lay it down next to, say, an X-Men,
And they do a lot of that in the issues where it's him and Namor the Submariner, you know, having arguments about this societal issue or that.
he was specifically designed to deliver a semi woke message from the '60s, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like literally the Black Panther movement, Black Liberation Front, right? That whole thing. He was sort of a an almost mocking representation of that clique of the population. And what was weird is doing that, oddly enough, that part of the population decided, it's a superhero and went with it. And so they
Yep.
had a success they didn't understand. And the only way they could keep it going was by breaking it down and figuring out what they had done. Black Panther as a movie looks horrible when you lay it down plot
Terrible.
point by plot point, and everyone agrees it's a terrible film. And then I had an epiphany and realized it's not. It's one of the greatest films made in the last 20 years. Let me explain.
I'm listening.
I've actually seen it. Yes, I didn't put bleach in my eyes, although I did have to suffer through it 3 times to have this epiphany.
Oh, that's a lot.
I know, but it wasn't 3 times in a row, it's 3 times over the course of a couple of years, and then, when I watched it the 4th time, I watched it wanting to watch it, and now I will watch it anytime it pops up because it tickles me to the core. It is an anti-movie. It's the greatest anti-movie ever made in the history of mankind. It is upside down and backwards, and every movie trope presented in the actual movie is reversed backwards in a mirror image.
Can you believe that picture was nominated for an Oscar, for a Best Picture Oscar?
There's 2 ways to look at that. Either it was pushed through or some very, very culturally elegant people decided who was gonna be nominated, because here's the thing, I think it deserved it. It is the most amazing anti-movie ever made in history, man. It's on par with, like, Blazing Saddles. It's up there with, think about it. They see
I
they
can't believe you just said Black Panther is on par with Blazing Saddles.
for comedy purposes, dude, I dare you to watch that movie and not end with a
Okay,
stick.
unintentional comedy, I will give you that.
No, I don't think it was unintentional. Dear God,
You think Ryan Coogler set out to make a shitty movie?
I don't think it was meant to be shitty. I think the product of it being shitty was a byproduct of the warping of the anti-comic concept to the anti hero concept, right?
Okay, I'm
So
I'm I'm follow
instead
I'm
of
following your line of thought
trying
now.
to make him the good guy, but they have no source material from which to make him the good guy, and so they force him into that framework by creating a more evil bad guy. And that narratively is broken. It doesn't really work. It involves far too many coincidences to make any kind of sense. So, okay, once you get rid of the overwhelming coincidences that led to him being the Black Panther and fighting all of everybody that needs to be fought and crap, you get to the comic book anti-comic narrative that's underneath the bottom of it, and then the token white guy sacrificing himself as the literal white savior of a
The
nation.
literal white savior. Yep.
I laugh so freaking hard every time I see that scene, and I realize they're warping my brain, making me enjoy seeing a white man die.
You know, I'm glad you brought up that point about the anti-comic, because I think we're seeing a similar thing happen right now with She-Hulk. I think She-Hulk, in many ways,
I
was
had
an
that thought.
anti-comic, and in the sense that it subverted a lot of comic tropes, and that's what a lot of people liked about it. But the people who are making this show right now, I don't think they have the slightest understanding of what made people like that character in that book.
They're culturally bankrupt. They have no clue about the material they're writing about. They look at it as a homework assignment. They go home and they do a decent job and they turn in their work the next morning, and then they cash their check and go out to the club and do roofies all night with friends. Get their latte and their pumpkin spice, and they stop on their way to freaking home to stop and get some Whole Foods, and then they go home with their 29 cats and sit there and harp on how their life would be better if there just weren't so many men around.
Yep. And look
I'm
at me, I've got a Marvel show on my resume. Look how awesome I am.
Right, exactly. Although I suspect, I'm hoping that all of the gibletry that's taking place and the MacGuffinry that's going on in Rings of Power, I could see a path to fruition. I know no one else out there can see it, but if you gave me absolute creative control over the narrative of the show currently as it stands, I could give you a second season that would rival the 4th season of Game of Thrones.
Oh, here's our man Kanye. We must be getting
Yeah.
close.
It's good to see you, Mr. President. The all the narrative elements are there. They're just being under and inappropriately utilized.
How many
I'll
episodes
even,
are they
I'll
into
even
Rings of Power now?
I'll even keep the narrative they're trying to push. But what you have to do is have Galadriel realize that war, her physically fighting a battle, is less valuable than her managing an army. There's this one bit, I can't remember if it was the Silmarillion or it was the Unfinished Tales or which one it was, but there is a moment when they're fighting Sauron's first army. and Galadriel ends up in the middle of a battlefield where they are losing. She will be taken down in this battle, and she picks up a fallen elf's sword. And the rest of the army, seeing the Lady of Peace pick up a weapon, were so put out by it that they rallied around her, and she put it back down. It was enough simply to see her take up a weapon with the apparent intent to use it for them to go, oh, wait, no, we're screwing up. We need to fix this stuff right now. It's gone horribly wrong. We're off narrative now. We need to get
Yeah,
back.
something's not right here.
Something's gone. All right, everybody, kill those people immediately. And they won the battle because she touched a weapon. Okay. So now she's like super queen. We can work with this narratively, but we have to invert the trope. She has to reach a point in her psyche where the physical battle, the physical warfare is unnecessary in relation to the things she could do as a figurehead.
Yes. When you put her in a suit of armor and have her start swinging a sword around, you are evincing just a complete misunderstanding of what the character is supposed to be about.
And this change desperately needs to take place before she picks up one of the rings.
Yeah.
It needs to be a personal thing where her character actually grows. And then you can actually sail the second season without having to put forth a whole lot of effort.
You mean like a character arc? We're allowed to do character arcs?
How dare you?
That's crazy talk.
Totally crazy, right? Who knew? Oh, your little Harfoot. All right, they just had their whole village razed to the ground, right? Their mobile farm village. How do you can't farm mobily? That's the antithesis of farming. It's the most.
They have are you serious? They have a mobile farm village?
That's dude. Okay. I really want to do.
I made it about 2/3 of the way through the first episode, so this is all new to me.
I really want to do a reaction show where I bring you in and we watch the episodes. And
I would be down for that.
If at any point we record the whole thing, I just wiped out about 60 hours of programming off of my own. I'm getting ready for it, dude. We're going to do it for real. And I want to watch your face during the third episode when you find out why the Harfoots are Harfoots and why they're nomadic.
Well, they're Harfoots because we're not allowed to say Hobbit because we don't have the certain copyrights where we're allowed to say certain words.
Right, but they have this little lore thing that they do. It's like a poem or a song or something that sort of, if you take it stanza by stanza, it sort of explains why they're nomadic farmers. Apparently, they've settled down a few times in their history, and it always goes bad. And so every now and then a group of Harfoots will stop and become sedentary, but they're never still there when they move back in, when they come back through the area. And so now they avoid even sedentary Harfoots. They are permanently nomadic. Farmers. Vegetarian
farmers.
Vegetarian nomads who reap
vegetarian nomad farmers. There is a job description I have never heard in my life.
I can't. All right, so they travel from what appear to be planted berry patches to planted orchards that no one owns, apparently.
Well, that's convenient.
It's really convoluted, dude. I had to sit down and think about it real hard to figure out how this would work, but I think I got a workable system that would make it possible.
I think sometimes in these shows they start out like with a pretty exterior shot that they want to do, and then they just kind of make whatever needs to happen in the narrative to get them to the pretty external shot. They kind of, we see this a lot, I think, where narratives are crafted to fit into visual shots, signature visual shots.
But the explanation to all of that would have to be that every now and then they drop off a handful of Harfoots who do farm, and then the Harfoots either move on or get killed, and there's nobody tending the farm when these come back through. And so they literally travel from burned out farm to burned out farm, and that's why they refuse to stop anywhere, because obviously it's a bad idea.
Oh, when you're a nomad farmer, I think all bets are off to begin with, aren't they?
Oh yeah, no, I told you I'm two Red Bulls in, Swiss. He told me it was a 2 Red Bull night. I don't think he realizes.
I did. You can feel free to blame me for that one. Hey, it's Dr. John. Speaking of people who are dead.
Right? Cavalcade of ghosts.
Cavalcade of ghosts. Oh man, I might call this episode that when I upload it.
We should make a series. There's a few of these things I know for a fact we could do live reactions to, like The General, some of your old Buster Keaton films and stuff, some of the early Charlie Chaplin stuff. A lot of that stuff's all public domain, and I've managed to get which one? I think it was the first Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, good call.
It, and I did not. That's the one where I could receive my copyright strike, but it was not for Little Shop of Horrors. It was actually a twofold strike, which I only got a warning for because it was the first time, which means I would have gotten 2 strikes, except it was my first time. So I've been real careful ever since, right? Because I know they're itching to drop that other one on me. They want a reason.
Can you get 2 strikes at the same time for the same thing if it's especially egregious?
You're not supposed to, but I hear backstage quite often that I got 2 strikes on the same video because they decided it was 2 different forms of terms of service breach. Right?
The double whammy.
What they got me for was what they call it? It was deceptive practices, as if I was trying.
That sounds so sinister.
It does, and I was like, deceptive practices. I would like some explanation for this, but here's the thing: because I don't participate in absolutely any of the YouTubery proposed by YouTube, I don't respond to YouTube at all.
Right.
Ever. Because I'm in a low.
I don't use any of YouTube's built-in stuff either, just like you don't.
And there's a few things I use, like the create button. I recently discovered it. Have you found that yet?
Yeah, I use that.
That's how you do it. Yeah, okay. I was wondering. I've been fiddling around with my phone trying to figure out how you do and what you're doing with your shorts, and I was like,
"Oh, I don't do shorts on there."
Really? Okay.
Yeah, shorts I do all on the laptop.
Super.
But when I I use my same video editing software. It's just all you have to do is reorient it 9:16 instead of 16:9.
Right.
As far as the frame height and width, and then as long as you tag it with shorts, then it seems to be perfectly happy.
Really? I tried that a few times, and it just wouldn't freaking do it. Just would not do it. It wouldn't do it. And I could never figure out why. And so I ended up, I do about 2 days a week, I do shorts if I'm going to do them. And because they do nothing for your channel. The only thing they're useful for is if you're capable of getting subscribers, because some channels aren't capable of getting subscribers. So if your channel is capable of getting subscribers, then shorts is a short circuit way to kind of tap into new subscribers kind of constantly.
Yeah, something like 80% of my viewership is the shorts now, according to the analytics.
Right, and that makes you wonder, why aren't they watching the shows? Where are these people?
It does make you wonder.
But I think the secret is in that evaporating sub count, where you run up 20 subs and evaporate 20 subs, and run up 20 subs and evaporate 20 subs.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Sad indeed.
Well, I mean, if you're one of those people who don't realize that you're of the marked breed, and you continue acting as if you aren't, then you would expend an awful lot of good, faithful effort into a dead project that you can't revive.
Oh, I know. And that's the part of the whole thing that's a little bit morally dubious, or maybe more than a little bit morally dubious. Just the
private business.
Yeah. you sort of get into the area of you're having people do things under false pretenses when they're not actually maybe gaining anything from the way that you are encouraging them to do things, and it all
Right?
gets pretty sinister when you
Very
get right
strange.
down to it.
It's very strange. Why would you make it so that it's very difficult for me to get promoted unless I do specifically a thing you want me to do?
Yes.
Because and that does me no good except for the growing of my channel, right? But the channel growth from shorts is totally different from channel growth from actual videos. Video subscribers stay. Short subscribers subscribe for 2 months and then evaporate because
Yeah.
keep hitting the subscribe button on every new anything they like, and they end up having only the 7 million plus channel club.
Yep. There it is.
So
I think we missed the Kanye and Mike Myers thing because we played the whole video and we must have been involved in something. Huh?
I saw Kanye.
Yeah, I saw him performing, but I didn't see the bit where he's standing with Mike Myers and says, "George Bush doesn't care about black people."
Is that what we're waiting for? I knew it was there somewhere.
Yeah, I don't think
I had to be it.
we're actually just about finished. That's all I've got for tonight. If do you have anything else?
Like, comment, and subscribe, folks. That's it.
I won't say it, but he will.
Oh, really? Really? You're gonna
Really?
get off my lawn.
There it is. Good night, folks.